Welcome Laurie to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says welcome gremlins to the game grotto. Take a seat, grab your daily heart.
Welcome Gaga and Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah.
Welcome WF Layton to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says hi Leo.
Now tap that screen, tap it, tap that screen, yeah. Tap it. Let's see those team stickers.
Welcome Eve to Wordle with Gaga.
Gang gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen.
Welcome Grumps to Wordle with Gaga.
Now tap that screen.
We would be honored if you
Welcome Eggs and Bacon to Wordle with Gaga.
Now tap that screen. Gang gremlins on the scene.
Grumps says welcome one and all.
Welcome gremlins to the gang grotto. Welcome gremlins.
Welcome Oliver.cc to Wordle with Gaga.
Welcome in, guys. Settle down. Grab your heartbeat.
Gaga Grumps says welcome gremlins to the game grotto.
Welcome George to Wordle with Gaga.
Grab your daily heart, claim your points and prepare to play.
Gang gremlins on the scene. Gang gremlins on the scene. Gang gremlins on
Grumps says it George Hyatt.
Gang gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it. Gang gremlins coming, let's go.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Yeah, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Gang gremlins on the scene. Now tap that screen. Now tap that screen.
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says eggs in
Gang
the house.
gremlins on the scene.
Crystal says good morning.
Welcome Crystal to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says D in the house.
Grumps says it Crystal morning.
Gaga Grumps says Crystal in the house.
Welcome Saoirse and Emily to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says it Saoirse and Emily Heya.
Gaga Grumps says who is ready to play Wordle.
Thanks for the follow.
Grumps says let's do this. How many fireworks today? Grumps says it no, never. Welcome LL Creative to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says creative in the house.
Oscar says it Grumps 5 to 6.
Gaga Grumps says I could live with only 1 or 2 fireworks after yesterday.
Welcome Oscar to Wordle with Gaga.
Eggs and Bacon says sound's not working again.
We would be honored if you would join us. We would be honored
Welcome Jacob to Wordle
if
with
you would
Gaga.
join us.
Grump says next one saying audio gets a 5-minute mute.
Gaga Grump says they are.
Exan Bacon says audio.
We would be honored if you would
Gaga
join
Grump
us.
says, are you not hearing sound? Gaga Grump says I am non-speaking. There is a pinned post on my page explaining. Gaga Grump says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Miller Gaming to Wordle with Gaga.
Milargaming says good
We
evening.
would be honored if you would join us.
Oscar says at Grumps Audi NBM Radio.
Miller Gaming says well afternoon.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Grump says that Searchundamly speaking involves audio. Welcome Light Blue Heart Shivani to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grump says Miller in the house. Gaga Grump says thanks for doing your daily heart eggs. Oscar, Crystal and Miller, D.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome Grump
Lara
says
to
at
Wordle
Lara
with
Higher.
Gaga. Gaga Grump says eggs FAFO. Lol. Gaga Grump says I am non-speaking. There is a pinned post on my page explaining.
Welcome Richard to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grump says we are starting with A. T.
Welcome Amy J to Wordle with Gaga.
Shivani says that Richard pinned video explains smiley face.
All Creative One says Richard not a bro, she's a sis.
Gaga Grump says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned?
Grump says at Eggs and Bacon tap away. Mute is done away.
Like a thon, fingers on fire, like a thon. Gremlins don't tire, like a thon. Hearts beat flying, like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grump says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Grump says at Searchundamly where. Welcome Frostlarks to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grump says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance.
Welcome Nadine to Wordle with Gaga.
Everybody get down! It's a freaking sniper!
Grumps says it Crystal.
Eggs and Bacon says Crystal.
Thanks for the follow.
Crystal says an eggs and bacon oops all. Welcome
Gaga
Scooby-Doo
Grumps
to Wordle
says
with
eggs had the
Gaga.
crown. Chistel stole it right off their head.
Crystal says today.
Welcome Gian to Wordle with Gaga.
Malargaming says I seen my consultant yesterday and was given the all clear ATM, but on a watch and wait list for 3.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with T please Crystal.
Welcome Arash to Wordle with Gaga.
Malargaming says years.
Grumps says it eggs and bacon ruthless, they are.
Eggs and Bacon says that Crystal would have been first time having starting word.
Gaga Grumps says today it is.
Grumps says at Millar Gaming some good news at least.
Gaga Grumps says oh that's great news Miller.
Welcome Silvers to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says White House in the chat.
Crystal says that eggs and bacon watch that snipe.
Mum says Guile.
DVP says crime.
Chase says Chuck Norris has died WTF.
Eggs and Bacon says press.
Grumps says welcome nobody beats MMKH to Father Wordle with Gaga.
Crystal says snipe for a perfect wipeout.
Welcome Shay to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says please don't make me dance as much as yesterday lol.
Grumps says it Crystal well invested.
Chase says challenge accepted.
Gaga Grumps says welcome to today shy lol.
DVP says hope the bun is secure.
Gaga Grumps says nearly a doable.
Oscar says bench.
Welcome Ollie Barbs to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says it is at the moment lol.
Welcome Mari to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says at D tilde V tilde P I personally stapled it on.
Crystal says it Gaga and Grumps oh man.
Mum says Guile still work.
Shout! It's Cooper!
Gaga Grumps says benchworks.
It's Cooper!
Malargaming says why.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Crystal says yas.
Gaga Grumps says oh and now the daughter makes me dance.
Crystal says Gaga and Grumps yes.
would
Oscar
be
says
honored
Gaga is
if
gonna
you
be
would
out of
join
break
us.
at the end of this.
Oscar says breath.
Gaga grumps says phew.
Chase says, what was that? Again.
Level up.
Gaga grumps says I'll be good if every game doesn't end up in fireworks like yesterday lol.
Level up.
says while.
Grump says at MMKH.
Gaga grumps says level up coming at end of game.
Oscar says bench or chime, I got a feeling.
Grump says at Emmy_Yahoo what?
Oscar says blind.
Gaga grumps says we start with BE still hope.
Milargaming says ban him.
Jay says the boys are at a disco, it's only right you disco too.
Crystal says Cooper appearing while his song plays makes it the awesome show.
Mum says bloom.
Gaga grumps says your feeling was wrong. MMKH says bull GE. Gaga grumps says it does make a great show.
Exan Bacon says at Emmy_Yahoo.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Gaga grumps says bulge fits.
PH7 says bilge.
Welcome EMI Yahoo to Wordle with Gaga.
Mum says bulge or bloom, I think. Chase says usually a bulge means it doesn't fit.
Welcome PH to Wordle with Gaga.
Mem says bilge.
Milargaming says bilge.
Gaga grumps says well that sorts that.
Grump says at PH7 you were right.
Gaga grumps
Good
says
game.
lol shy.
Good game.
Gaga grumps says PH7 in the house thanks for doing your daily heart.
Good
Gaga
game.
grumps says GG gremlins. Let's see
Thanks
those
for the
W's in
follow.
the chat.
Good game. Good game.
Gaga
Good game.
grumps says a quick segue for this.
Good game.
Level up in the room for MMKH.
It's a L
Good
L
game.
L level up.
Good
You
game.
guessed it wrong, you guessed
Good
it
game.
right. Now here we
Good
are,
game.
another high.
Good game.
Support was letters, here's a
Good
youth
game.
now. Wow, this level's
Good game.
ours. Come out with me now.
Good game.
Green,
Good game.
green, look at that glow.
Good game.
Didn't solve Wordle
Good game.
solo though. Support
Good game.
came in, guess
Good
it's
game.
up. Level unlocked, shout out chat.
Welcome Road to SSL to Wordle with Gaga.
New fandom level, streak still alive. Wordle solved and you helped me thrive. Tomorrow we guess, same time, same chat, same brilliant brains. Remember that.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says thanks for all the GGs. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Chase says dance break first.
Shout! It's Cooper!
Gaga Grumps says here we go again.
It's Cooper!
Welcome to Wordle with Gaga.
Wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? He's a corgi, don't you know? His name is Cooper, watch him go. Wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? With the wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? With the
Welcome
wiggle
Ducky
butt.
Games to Wordle with Gaga.
Cute and fluffy puffball tail, Cooper, we do, yeah. Wiggle butt, just a little mud with a wiggle
TH7 says, don't think it reset.
with a wiggle butt.
Well, Creative One says Super Dog is corgi too.
Gaga Grumps says I didn't even run the wheel of PH7. Gaga Grumps says yep.
Grumps says it ill creative one, yeah.
Gaga Grumps says level U coming at end of game.
Grumps says it Gaga and Grumps boo, hiss.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A.
Welcome IDFWU to Wordle with Gaga. Grumps says you slowed it down on purpose.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome William to Wordle with Gaga.
Like a thon, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop, like a thon, who will be crowned, like a thon, gremlin renowned, like a thon, fingers on fire.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says creative out of like jail. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with M, please creative.
Exand Bacon says there was a snipe.
Oh, creative one says maybe.
Crystal says it's delayed big time, lol.
Well, Creative One says okay.
Gaga Grumps says oh sorry I didn't see it. Yep, Crystal stole that crown right of creative's head LL.
She says Snipe Crown just woke up from a nap, give it a sec.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with M, please Crystal.
Crystal says maze.
Gaga Grumps says it appeared on my gift list in time, I just wasn't looking there.
Chase says it's spelt Maisie.
Gaga Grumps says maze you got. Gaga Grumps says lol shy. Gaga Grumps says and for those not getting the joke, Maisie is my grand cub.
It's a Wordle wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says Crystal on a roll.
No letters to shout. Wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
To the grid, can't figure it out.
Crystal says wipeout.
Exam Bacon says ghost.
Exand Bacon says ghost.
She says looks like you are indeed dancing as much today.
Well, creative one says chunk.
Gaga Grumps says ghost fits.
Welcome Thomas BRW to Wordle with Gaga. Welcome Giggles to Wordle with Gaga.
Eggs and Bacon says H has done it again. Gaga Grumps says egg the second word wonder strikes again.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Chase says witchcraft.
It's a performance and
Well, Creative One says WX.
on her face. She's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga. Wordle
Gaga
within
Grumps
three,
says
so gifts
fireworks
explode
for
with
eggs.
glee. Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis
Jay
make
says
her
dance
happy.
some more.
As in her face they slappy. Fireworks for Gaga.
Crystal says I am done sniping everyone. I have to do my daily thing and go to work.
Rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can dance,
Jay says
okay.
work. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Grump says at Crystal hey hi, hey ho, off to the salt.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for all the love Crystal, have a good day.
Grump says at Crystal minds you go.
Well, Creative One says at Crystal bye.
Level up.
Gaga Grumps says a quick segue for this. Level up in the room for Grumps.
I guessed it wrong, you guessed it
Crystal
right.
says at
Now
Grumps
here we
it's
are,
Friday.
a
Oh, thank
night
goodness.
right. If support was letters, you'd spell wow. This level's ours, come out with me now.
Grump says at Crystal weekends
Look at that
FTW.
glow. Didn't solve Wordle solo though. Support came
Crystal says at All Creative One bye, have a good day.
shout out check. New fandom level streak still alive. Wordle solved and you helped me fry. Tomorrow we guess same time, same chat, same brilliant brains.
LL Creative One says at Crystal thanks you too. Welcome,
Crystal
this isn't
says
her
at
to
Gaga
Wordle with
and
Gaga.
Grumps, you're welcome.
Crystal says at Grumps nice.
Gaga Grumps says on the level ship. I'm being spoilt again. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Jay says would be rude not to.
Welcome Care Bear to Wordle with Gaga.
Eggs and Bacon says help in hearing voices and in Home Alone.
Crystal says at CHEY keep her busy law.
Chase says at Crystal, it's my duty. Gaga Grumps says I am going to ground to Shiloh.
Grump says at Eggs and Bacon TTS finally working.
Crystal says good day, heart, 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 everyone.
Jay says take care, Crystal.
Welcome Ellie Hand with index finger and thumb crossed to Wordle with Gaga.
Or Creative One says we are going to only play 5 games today. Lol. We should have a dance-off.
Level up.
Chase says you won't believe it.
Level up.
Grump says it Crystal.
Eggs and Bacon says looks like Gaga wants to dance all evening.
Grump says at Ill Creative One you can always join the live.
Gaga Grumps says I thought we were here for Wordle with Gaga, not Wiggle with Gaga lol. Gaga Grumps says level up coming after the game.
Chase says wiggle you say, like a wiggle butt.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps
Good
says
game.
let's play Wordle.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gaga Grumps says
Welcome
what letter are we gonna
XJADX to
choose?
Wordle with Gaga.
Predictions in the chat now.
Or Creative One says it Grump, so really.
Grump says at PH7 no X on the wheel. Welcome Sue Davies to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting.
Welcome
with A.
Leona Privspam to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says at Ill Creative One sure.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome MIZTRDZ to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says at Leona _ Privspam stop spamming.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps
Welcome
says your
Jacob
word
Sue to
starting
Wordle
with
with
V, please,
Gaga.
Leona. Gaga Grumps says if your word is being filtered, try I'd like word. Gaga grumps says you hear Leona.
Grumps says at Gaga and Grumps your word with V.
Gaga grumps says at Leona_prif spam I need a word starting with V please.
PH7 says Quam.
Gaga grumps says nice work
Nope.
Leona.
Grumps says at Stiangathings 245 no plurals in Wordle.
Gaga grumps says Quam fits.
PH7 says Quail.
Welcome Colin Body to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps says so near.
Colon Body says Quail.
Grumps says Quail.
DVP says Quail.
Blossom BXZ says Quam.
Fireworks for Gaga.
Welcome Dollar Yena to Wordle with
says
Gaga.
Quail.
It's a performance Explode 'em on her face. She's in a happy place.
Gaga grumps says he just wants
Welcome BLSSOM.VXZ to Wordle with Gaga.
Gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for
Exam Bacon says Gaga's about to dance again.
make her happy. As in
Welcome Ori to Wordle with Gaga.
fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat. Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat.
Bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day.
Gaga grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Eggs and Bacon says second guess merchant is going for the evening as phone's about to die.
Gaga grumps says thanks for coming eggs. A pleasure as always.
Grumps says at Eggs and Bacon plug it in.
Gaga grumps says a quick segue for this. Level up in the room for Shy and Crystal.
It's a LLL level up. I guessed it wrong, you guessed it right. Now here we are.
Level up.
If support was letters, you'd spell wow. This level's ours. Come bow with me now. Green, green, look at that glow. Didn't solve Wordle solo though. Support came in, guess it snap. Level unlocked. Shout out chat. New fandom level streak still alive. Wordle solved and you helped me fry. Tomorrow we guess same
Jamming is in the house.
Gaga Grumps says Colin in the house, thanks for doing your daily heart. Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. S. Gaga Grumps says D. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like-a-thon, race to the top, like-a-thon, tap and don't stop, like-a-thon, who will be crowned, like-a-thon, gremlin renowned, like-a-thon, fingers on fire, like-a-thon, gremlins don't tire, like-a-thon, hearts beat flying.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting words. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says I can't read that name. Your word starting with S, please, Gopini.
Welcome Linar to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with S at Fuku, VINI. Gaga Grumps says if your word is being filtered, try I'd like word. Gaga Grumps says soup you got. Gaga Grumps says yellow P and E in need of homes. Gaga Grumps says can't be power.
Colin Body says typed.
Gaga Grumps says can T be typed.
Welcome
E
Ruby
doesn't
and
live
Mam to
there.
Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says because there is no R and E doesn't live there.
Colin Body says plain.
DVP says plead.
Gaga Grumps says plain fits. Gaga Grumps says hey Harry. Gaga Grumps says P moved into number 1. E still homeless.
PH7 says Patty.
Grumps says it Ruby and Mam higher.
DVP says petty.
Gaga Grumps says petty works.
Colin Body says penny.
Grumps says it Colin Body no end.
Fireworks for Gaga. It's a performance and
Gaga Grumps says here we go again.
she's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga. Wordle within 3, so gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat.
As in her face they slappy. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Welcome CON to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Grump says it's Con Haya.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. F. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome Rachel to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Grump says at Rachel no plurals in Wordle.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with F please D. DVP says first.
Benjamin is in the house.
Grump says it's Seren not Seren Haya.
Gaga Grumps says Seren in the house, thanks for doing your daily heart.
Well, creative one says faked.
Saren not Saren says hey Gaga and Grumps.
Welcome Seren not Seren to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says first you got.
Saren not Saren says quick heart me before I start work. Have a wonderful evening.
Grump says at Merviex no.
Gaga Grumps says yellow R.
Welcome Merviex to Wordle with Gaga.
EUANN01 says drone.
Golden Body says Razor.
DVP says
Welcome
crow.
Jimmy to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says it Jimmy Haya.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for popping in. You too, Saren. Gaga Grumps says drone fits. Gaga Grumps says R moved in the number 2 Wordle Street and N into 4. Gaga Grumps says Jimmy in the house.
Colon Body says prank.
Jimmy says at Grumps hey.
Well, Creative 1 says crank.
Gaga Grumps says prank works.
Fireworks for Gaga. It's a performance and
Gaga Grumps says Wordle 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat.
fireworks for Gaga. Wordle
Good
within
game.
3, so gifts explode with glee. Fireworks for Gaga.
Good game.
Emojis make her happy. As if
Welcome Abel to Wordle with Gaga.
fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. Shout! It's Cooper! Hey! Shine, shine, shine. Da, 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 da. Shine, shine. It's Cooper! Whoa! Shine, shine. Da, 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 da. Wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? He's a corgi, don't you know? His name is Cooper, watch him go! Wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? With the wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what? With the wiggle butt. Cute and fluffy puffball tail, Cooper, we do, yeah. Wiggle butt, just a little mud with the wiggle butt. Gremlins say what with the wiggle butt.
Welcome Janet to Wordle with Gaga.
Thanks for the follow.
Welcome Elliot to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says what letter will the winner
Level
choose?
up.
Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Why?
Welcome, Jack Wright to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says that wasn't a real level up. Grumps was being a git lol.
Welcome Summer H to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Nope.
Grump says it's Summer 12 non-plurals in Wordle.
Like a thon, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop, like a thon, who will be crowned like a thon, gremlin renowned, like a thon, fingers on fire.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Hearts be flying like a thon, gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with Y please D.
Chase says me, Jesse, where did you get that light wand? Jesse, the toy table, me. With what money?
Chase says Jesse, we had to pay.
DVP says yield.
Welcome Killian to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says lol that's my boy. Gaga Grumps says yield you got.
Well, Creative One says at Grumps seems we're back where we started from.
Jay says Jesse just helping himself from the store.
Grump says two young hunting for contact lenses. They need to pay more attention to their story. Welcome Rem to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Colin Body says clump.
Chase says it's only the PTA anyway.
PH7 says pound.
PH7 says pouchu.
Colin Body says chump.
PH7 says pouchu.
PH7 says pouch.
Gaga Grumps says I bet he feels really bad now.
A creative one says clunk.
Chase says nah, he left.
Well, Creative One says chunk.
Gaga grumps, says Chum Fitz.
PH7 says mucho.
O Creative One says munch.
Body says munch.
DVP says munch. Gaga grumps, says we have a nearly full anagram.
Grump says munch.
PH7 says mouch.
PH7 says NVM.
Good game.
Gaga grumps, says munchwares.
She's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga. Wordle within 3,
Grump
so
says
gifts explode
fireworks.
with glee. Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy.
Gaga grumps, says the power of the White House.
Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat.
Will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat. Gaga grumps, says at this rate I'm going to have to make fireworks a thing for Wordle in 2 not 3 lol.
Welcome Noah to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid.
Thanks for the follow.
Welcome M Laws to Wordle with Gaga.
Shay says FF has got a spiky ring too.
Gaga grumps, says let's play Wordle. Gaga grumps, says lol.
Exam Bacon says #second guess merchant has returned.
Gaga grumps, says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga grumps, says found your charger, did you eggs?
Exon Backin says at Gaga and Grumpsy up.
Grump says at Eggs and Bacon hooray for charging leads. Grump says at M_laws_16 no, never.
Gaga grumps, says we are starting with A. M. Gaga grumps, says thanks for the winks, Noah. Gaga grumps, says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top. Like a thong,
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says
Welcome to VRFS to Wordle with Gaga.
Top BRFS says hello.
Grump says at tab_VRFS hail.
Gaga Grumps says did everyone get put in like jail lol.
Benjamin is in the house.
Gaga Grumps says Tav in the house.
Grump says at Gaga and Grumps muted everyone. Welcome Muslin to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says your word starting with M please Grumps.
Grump says Mondo. Grump says let's have a wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says WTF is Mondo. Gaga Grumps says nearly.
Grump says FFS.
Gaga Grumps says O moved into number 5 Wordle Street.
Welcome a person to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Ms LHYN in the house.
Welcome LJ to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says retrofits.
Grump says at LJ higher.
Gaga Grumps says yellow are in need of a home. Gaga Grumps says cargo works. Gaga Grumps says blimey no fireworks. What a relief lol. Gaga Grumps says Circo is in the grid but I don't know what it is. Gaga Grumps
Welcome
says
Lucas
neither
J.
does
Ainsey
Wordle.
to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Curio Ice a good shout.
O Creative One says Curio.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the box! Don't let her lose!
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game! Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go! Team Gaga, 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 Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready?
Gaga Grumps says nearly an hour and a half in. This is the first time I've got to play one of my usual breaks on deck.
Gremlins, let's go! Game! Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says doo-doo to Gaga. Share the live chat for chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Topverf says hello.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. L. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thumb, race to the top, like a thon. Tap and don't stop, like a thon. Who will be crowned like a thon? Gremlin
Welcome White Heart, Grey Heart, Nick Grey Heart, White Heart to Wordle with Gaga.
Gremlins don't tire like a thon. Hearts beat flying like a thon. Gremlins defying.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with L, please my LHYN. Gaga grumps, says Limbo you got.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout.
Gaga grumps, says wipeouts in the chat.
Lost in the grid, can't figure it out. Oh no.
Grump says fireworks incoming.
Eggs and Bacon says guest.
Jacob says guest.
Welcome Probailey02 to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says guest fix.
Creative 1 says chunk.
Gaga grumps, says yellow UE and T in need of homes.
Welcome
Gaga
leftwards
grumps,
pushing
says hi
hand
there,
rightwards
02.
pushing hand to Wordle with Gaga. Welcome Louis HOWARTH to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says needs a UILTJ.
Well, creative 1 says flute.
Gaga grumps, says untie works.
Will Creative 1 says at Nick Sweet.
Gaga grumps, says no it doesn't. Gaga grumps, says no I.
Welcome Dan the taxi man to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga grumps, says no S for sweet.
Welcome Whiteheart Amy Lou Whiteheart to Wordle with Gaga.
PH7 says etude.
Gaga grumps, says etude works. Gaga grumps, says no problem Dan. PH7 says shoot.
Creative 1 says truth.
Grump says at Louis Howardth Hayer.
Gaga Grumps says U and E moved into 3 and 5. T still homeless. Gaga Grumps says shoot is a shout. Gaga Grumps says and truce no longer works.
Welcome Archie to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says truce it is.
The creative one says no see now.
Gaga Grumps says we start with T.
Grump says no see, meh. Welcome Luka Mihalik to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says danger zone. Are there any other options than taupe?
Welcome Midhat Karamat to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says at Midhat Karamat 657 what?
Handy says jolly speakless.
Luka Mihalik says Lego is only for letters.
Welcome Handy to Wordle with Gaga. Grump says at Midhat Karamat 657 not enough letters. Welcome Kian to Wordle with Gaga.
Luka Mihalik says it won't work.
Gaga Grumps says I don't see anything but taupe.
PH7 says only tap.
Good game.
Welcome, Gremlin, to the game grotto. Welcome, Gremlin.
Gaga Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Grab your heartbeat. Share us round.
Welcome Cats to Wordle with Gaga.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Good game.
Gang Gremlins
Good
on the
game.
scene.
Good game.
Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Good game.
Gang
Good game.
Gremlins on the scene.
Good game.
Gaga Grumps says Luca in
Now
caps.
tap that screen. Tap it, tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it. Gang Gremlins come and let's go. Now tap that screen. Tap it, tap it, tap that screen. Yeah, tap it, tap it. Let's see those team stickers flow. Oh, oh, Gang Gremlins on the scene. Oh, oh, now tap that screen. Oh, 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 oh. Now tap that screen.
Gaga Grumps says treasure box up if you need a coin for your daily heart.
Now tap that screen. Oh, oh, Gang Gremlins on the scene.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says, what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Angel. Paper cut to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. Oh.
Welcome Afiz to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop, like a thon, who will be crowned like a thon, gremlin renowned like a thon, fingers on fire like a thon, gremlins don't tire like a thon, hearts
Gaga
beat
Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list.
Welcome Alma to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with O, please Grumps.
Grumps says organ.
Gaga Grumps says organ you got.
Welcome Junior to go to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says yellow G and are in need of homes.
Welcome DJXO to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says gauze fits. Gaga Grumps says G moved into number 1 and an E moved into 5. Are still homeless.
Welcome Anisa to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says can't be glass.
Welcome Grumps Connie says to it Wordle needs with Gaga. Needs an E.
Connie says glide.
Gaga Grumps says can't be glide, needs an A. DJ XO says Glade is good. Gaga Grumps says Glade works.
Fireworks
Grump
for
says at
Gaga.
Angel Dog Paper Cut No R.
It's a performance tonight. Explode 'em on her face. She's in a happy place. Fireworks for Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says Wordle in 3. Let's see those fireworks in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. Emojis make her happy.
Good game.
As in her face.
Welcome IDK, who this is to Wordle with
Gaga
Gaga.
Grumps says GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Fireworks for Gaga. From a single rose to a whole bouquet. Anything will be okay. If you can, that's okay. Smileys in chat still win the day. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga. Fireworks for Gaga.
Welcome Jackalixer to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the next grid. Gaga Grumps says let's play Wordle.
Grump says it Ethan yes. Welcome Lincoln Davies to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says what letter will the
Welcome
wheel
Ethan to
choose?
Wordle with Gaga.
Predictions in the chat now.
Welcome Bella to Wordle with Gaga. Welcome BW to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we are starting
Welcome
the
Bubbles
day.
to Wordle with
Why?
Gaga. Grump says it Ethan no worries.
Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Welcome
Anissa
Scars to
says
Wordle
Yodel.
with Gaga.
Race to the top like a thorn. Tap and don't stop.
Welcome Laura Beth Maxwell to Wordle with Gaga.
Who will be crowned like a thorn? Gremlin renowned like a thorn. Fingers on fire like a thorn. Gremlins don't tire like a thorn.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says I've given you the beat, now let's see your fingers dance. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with Y, please, Grumps.
Grumps says Yahoo, gimme that wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says lol Yahoo you got. Gaga Grumps says wipeout denied.
Grumps says this is outrageous.
Gaga Grumps says a yellow H in need of a home.
Anissa says hinge.
Gaga Grumps says hinge fits. Gaga Grumps says no change. 7 letters wiped from the game.
Benjamin is in the house.
Gaga Grumps says busbotter in the house. Gaga Grumps says plush works.
Welcome Mandler to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says we added a homeless you. Gaga Grumps says no S.
Grumps says at busbotter Malmo welcome back.
Mandla 14
Welcome
says
Dazzy to
blush.
Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says 10 letters wiped from the game. Gaga Grumps says can't be blush or truth.
Blake says truth.
Welcome Alfie York to Wordle with Gaga.
Blake says truth.
Anissa says it can't end in H.
Gaga Grumps says H doesn't live at the end. Gaga Grumps says, do you need help? Gaga Grumps says, got it yet?
Welcome Suzanne Gay to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says, I am quiet, yes lol. Gaga Grumps says, thrush is 6 letters. Gaga Grumps says, I think this is the word.
It's playtime! Gaga is in the box!
Gaga Grumps says, GG Gremlins. Let's see those W's in the chat.
Good game.
Don't let him push yours! Are you ready to play? Let those stickers fly! Which team are you on? Team Gaga, give a cheer.
Good game.
Are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps,
Gaga Grumps says, DVD for Gaga. Share the live chat for chat and shower her with roses and GGs.
Gremlins, let's go! Team Gaga, 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 Team Gaga, give a cheer. Team Grumps, are you here? Team Gaga, are you ready? Team Grumps, are you steady? Game, Gremlins, let's go! Game, Gremlins, let's go! Game, Gremlins, let's go!
Gaga Grumps says, if you haven't done it yet, grab your daily heart while I set up the last grid of the day. Gaga Grumps says, let's play Wordle. Gaga Grumps says, what letter will the wheel choose? Predictions in the chat now. Gaga Grumps says we are starting with A. H. Gaga Grumps says thanks for popping in, Bus Spotter. Gaga Grumps says leaderboard reset incoming. Tap those screens. The one wearing the crown at the end of the song chooses the first word.
Like a thong, race to the top, like a thon, tap and don't stop.
Gaga Grumps says want to steal the starting word. Send the ranking crown and snipe the list. Gaga Grumps says your word starting with H, please, Anisha. Anisa says heart. Gaga Grumps says heart you got.
It's a Wordle wipeout. No letters to shout. Wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says wipeouts in the chat.
Grid can figure it out. Oh no. Wipeout.
Gaga Grumps says it's entered. It's all grey lol.
Welcome Steph to Wordle with Gaga.
We would be honored
Steph says
if you
hi.
would join us.
Anissa says cloud maybe.
Benjamin is in the house.
Gaga Grumps says Steph in the house, thanks
Welcome
for doing
Ahada
the daily hearts.
Katalabare Goose to Wordle with Gaga.
Gaga Grumps says doing good Tar Angel. You. Gaga Grumps says cloud fits. Gaga Grumps says yellow LO and D in need of homes.
Anissa says Dolly.
Steph says Dali all godly.
Gaga Grumps says Dolly works.
Ihadurka Talabari says oddly.
Steph says godly.
Gaga Grumps says we end in lie. Steph says oh no, oddly it is. Gaga Grumps says yep, can't be Gidley.
Thanks for the follow.
Gaga Grumps says thanks for joining me to play Wordle. I will be back at 4 p.m. UK tomorrow for more Wordle with Gaga.
Wordle with Gaga. Wordle with Gaga. Ra ra ra. Will the fireworks fly? A random star chosen by fate.
Gaga Grumps says, do you do the daily Wordle? I post mine on my page and would love you to share your results.
Ihadurka Talabari says, see you next time.
Gaga Grumps says, can you help me with my daily Wordle? Please go to my page and comment on my posts with words you'd like me to use.